very quick tutorial about how to use Photoshop to create a digital collage for our surrealism project. I'm going to go to print because it gives me dimensions that I'm familiar with. Letter is a normal piece of paper, 8.5 by 11 inches. I'm going to change my orientation to to landscape mode and click create. All right, in the meantime, on another tab over on the side, because Photoshop's taking forever, I'm going to go to Google and get myself a landscape for the background image. Because as we talked about in our earlier discussion, surrealism often uses landscapes as sort of the base for creating an alternative reality. So just the first Google result I come up with here is a landscape that I'm copying by right-clicking on it. And I'm going to bring it over here and go to edit and paste. Copy image, edit. Yep. So if your paste isn't working, it's a layers issue. My background layer was locked. So I just made a new layer with this button here, create a new layer. And here's my landscape. In order to change its size and get it to fill up the whole background, I'm going to hit Control T, which is an edit function, free transform. What that does, Control T on my keyboard. I could go to edit and do that. And then I'm going to just drag from the corner. If you have the latest version of Photoshop, I believe this is backwards, but in this version that I've opened here, which is 2019, I think, you have to hold shift when you drag from the corner to keep from stretching your landscape or any picture oddly. See, if I'm not holding shift, it gets weird. If I do hold shift, it keeps the proportions the same. I think they changed that in the 2020 update so that it actually works backwards. But so now my landscape is on layer 1. I'm going to double click that. DKND landscape background. Just label it so I know what that layer is. I want to make another layer. And as someone suggested before, the easiest way to turn a regular old landscape into a surrealist landscape is to put a unicorn in it. And I'm going to search. I like using the term vector in my search, and you'll learn more why as we start to use Illustrator. But what vector gives us is oftentimes a nice clean line of image that is easy to cut out, right? And I'll show you, this one should give us a couple of ways. All right, cool. It's got a watermark, but for the purposes of this demonstration, it doesn't really matter. So I copied it and edited, pasted it in there. So this frolicky little unicorn, how are we going to make him live in this environment? Well, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to zoom in, all right? A couple of selection tools that we want to learn here. We talked about this polygonal lasso and the regular lasso before. The regular lasso works by trying to just follow your hand as you mouse around it, and obviously that is next to impossible to try to get it good. It has its uses, but Control D to deselect. I just did that. Is a good place to start. Polygonal lasso tool we could use to very carefully go around this thing, but the problem is for round edges like this, it's going to take forever. You're going to have to zoom in too far, and it's going to create this angled thing that isn't exactly what you want either. So Control D to deselect. The one that is next to it here, it might be buried underneath your quick selection tool. Quick selection works pretty cool because it just tries to kind of guess what you want. And it's doing a pretty good job, but it's selecting that. If I just want to select the white, it's getting the green in there too. It got a little bit of the hooves. It got this whole back leg here. It's not perfect. You can work with it up here in some of the stuff, the options. Control D to deselect. What I think is going to be best for this particular application is this magic wand.